Hey everybody, Cory from Aquarium Coop. Big Steen's here, and I was feeding. And he's like, let me film this, I need a video. So here we are, we're doing that. Like, I'm just feeding my fish, and I'll talk about them, because why not? Still have the two 125 gallons filled with rummy nose tetras. I haven't moved them because I'm gonna move. So it doesn't make any sense to put these into an 800 gallon aquarium and then try to catch them out over the several days. So, you know, I've just been fattening them up, and once we move the 800 gallon, then we can move these guys to the 800 gallon, and, you know, they eat lots of flake food. This is the extreme krill. And we've got the plants going on pretty good in here. I've been doing some experiments. So a tip, if you guys want one that I can now actually recommend, I took Vallisneria in the pots, and I put the easy root tabs in the pot when I set it there.
Oh, interesting.
So it's fueling all the jumps. Now you might say, but Cory, how do you know it wasn't going to do that already? Well, I have two identical tanks, that's how I know, because I did the same thing over here, except I did not put a root tab in it. And so you can see it's got like 1.5, where those have like 20 apiece.
Yeah, spread out all.
And I did this test multiple times, not just like a one of. I've actually done this test a couple of times now, and so I can say putting that root tab in there actually is a little bit magical. So that's my new move if I'm going to leave something in the pot, is put root tab. I only did one. I mean, supposedly you might be better to do with two. I don't know.
I think you need more food.
Oh, you're going to be surprised how fast they'll crush through this. Like, we'll come back in like a minute and they'll still be super hungry. Because while it seems like a lot, there's 500 of them in here. And
that's true, that's true.
You know, you'll see, you know, they poop it out, and, you know, I got to do some gravel vacuum, get some a little bit of algae, but, you know, chemically the water's doing awesome. So if it takes me like half an hour if I just sit here and keep like, because, you know, get 6 of them eating one piece of flake food, and it takes a really long time to do it that way. Down here, I've got the baby turtle. Well, they're not babies, but the small turtles. These guys get a lot of extreme pellets, and, you know, I kind of just chuck them in so they hopefully don't bite each other's legs nearly as much. And all the other
mini musk turtles.
Mini musk turtles with a ton of endlers in there. There's a few rasboras in there as well. I just have this canister on here because I had a bunch of algae in here, and the plan was to put a new background in, and I have the new background, except it makes sense to put a background in after you move the tank or while you're moving it instead of while it's set up. So
I feel like there's going to be a lot of that going on.
Yeah, literally everything got put on hold. So yeah, it's everything's a work in progress, but you know, I was really getting some momentum going. And I was like, yeah, let's finish this. And so there's like, what, 2 tanks? 3 tanks. There's only 3 tanks left in the fish room that don't have a background. We were almost done, and then I found my new house, accidentally. I think my wife found it, actually. It was like, look at this. They'll get their crunch on.
And for anyone who's wondering, why would you move out of here? I mean, it's just an issue of storage.
Yeah, it's a business decision. It's like, well, there's 2 things. Storage is a huge issue for us, and then on top of that, we have loud neighbors.
Yeah,
so,
as you will hear here, hopefully not.
Yeah, we did everything we could to not hear them, but they're playing loud music, and there's yelling, and
it's literally every time I'm over here.
Yeah, that's why you guys don't see my ponds.
Yeah, the last time I was here, there was a dogfight over there.
Yeah.
And that was really loud.
That's why I've never filmed my brine shrimp pond, because I can't. I do pictures, and I post it on my forum, but it just doesn't make sense. So down here, this is an empty tank. I had clown loaches, but I've been moving out some of the fish to make the move easier, and I'm just storing guppy grass. This is guppy grass I pull out of the ponds, and because I know I'm going to set up probably a bunch more ponds at the new place, and so this will make it easy. I can kind of drain and move, and I know I have a backup stock of guppy grass, which guppy grass ships terribly, by the way. That's why we don't sell it, and why you don't see a lot of people selling it. It melts down way too easy in the mail. So get it locally if you can, a fish store, a fish buddy, anything like that. Maybe you can get a buddy to mail some to you, and realize when you get it, you're just going to get like the saddest mush you've ever seen, and hope it works, because that's about as good as you can get with that. So yeah.
I had somebody message me like, can you send me some? And I was like, no. And he's like, oh, come on, it does well. And then like a couple weeks later, he's like, he bought it from someone and they've had to replace it like 3 times because
Right,
it
and
shows
then
up
the guy,
dead.
and I'm sure the guy that sent it's like lost money on the deal on
for
this
sure.
point. And so this tank turned green, and I had the light out for the past couple days trying to clear it up a little bit, but it has my pride and joy at the moment, this blue-eyed live bearer. They finally are old enough to be boy and girl, and so we do have boy and girl, and now I'm just waiting to see some fry.
What type of live bear? These things are amazing.
I forget the name every time. Someone in the comments will correct me and make me look like a noob. That's fine, because these guys are super rare. I'd never seen them before. I got them on Aquabid, and I'm really enjoying them. Half because I'd never had them before. That blue eye is really nice. They seem to be a real nice, docile fish.
They kind of remind me of like a rainbow fish.
Yeah, a rainbow, or they kind of remind me of not necessarily the Norman lamp Achilles, but the other African, like Lamperichthes, I think is what it is. But the snails will finish off what they don't eat, and you
probably can't see it, but the yellow on them is actually really striking.
I don't know what their final form is yet, because they're new to me, so I can't even just wait till you see. For me, it's like I don't know. This was the same kind of practice here. We put some root tabs in the pots just to see, and I'm not putting any easy green in there to see how it would help feed some of the plants.
Well, the octopus is doing well.
Yep, and same with this crypt, and I didn't put any with the dwarf sads. That was another like, well, let's just see, because I did some other tanks with some, and so, I kind of had to spread it around in different conditions and just make sure that if I'm going to tell people, buy our root tabs and put them in there, they actually do something instead of...
Especially now because you sell the bigger packs for cheaper than the single.
Yeah, we have the 60 packs, so if you need a bunch of them. These are empty tanks. These were the last 2 we just redid. I say just, that was like a month ago. Everything just got put on hold when we tried to buy a house. So, but down here, these, I want to get into a pond so bad. These will be one of the first things to go into a pond. They're hiding in the back. These are orange platies, and they've got like these metallic scales, and they're just dying for a bigger tank, a more dense tank. They came from Carl Trochu, who he wins all the live bear competitions. He's always got the best swordtails, the best platies. These are actually variatus. They're not even platies, they're variatus, which means they can go cooler water typically, which is nice. And so his water was crazy hard. My water here is not hard. And so they've been a little more skittish and not as easy going as I'd like. But I'm hoping at the new place, since I'm on a well and it does have hard water, we'll see these guys thrive a bit more.
You picked these up on Aquabid?
No, I had to get them from him. And I can actually see here, I got to get more hardness in the water. If you see, you can see little patches on them. That's stress. So I might even put a little bit of salt in there. And yeah, it's a fine line when you take a fish that's used to super hard water.
Especially this is full of crushed coral too.
Yeah, his sponges in his fish room, which is outside, they're rocks. They calcified. So like they don't squish. They're literally rock because he's got such hard water. And so, yeah, getting down here and seeing that, it's like, okay, I gotta get put a couple wonder shells in here. I'm actually gonna put, and I'll do it right now. Actually, I'm actually gonna put some marine salt in there, and not a lot. I just want the minerals. So this right here is marine salt. This is Fritz marine salt here. And something like that will dissolve fairly quick, which is nice. And the amount of minerals in there. So yes, did that add some salinity? Yes, but later on you'll hear how I made a saltwater pond, and it takes 2 cups of salt per gallon of water to make salt water. We just put 2 tablespoons into 20 gallons of water, and it'll auto water change. So that'll dissolve fairly quick, and that's going to help. It's not enough salt to fight off the infection, but it's going to bring the minerals. So I need to keep an eye. I might put some erythromycin in there, but this now becomes a check on it a couple of times a day and see how that girl's doing. I believe it's a girl. I haven't actually looked. Yeah, looks like it. So that's what happens when you have a big fish room and you're busy. You run into like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Even though auto water changes, a lot of stuff should get you through it. It doesn't always get you through it. These are yellow labs that I got from Charles Clapsaddle. And he was working with them so that the boys would have the black stripes and females wouldn't have any stripes to make it super easy for him to sex them and sell them. So I got some in, and they've bred a few times. I've been too lazy and too busy to pull the fry. It's kind of been in this stasis mode of like, well, you know, they were never meant to live in this tank, so it's like, well, when I put them in the 125 where they're supposed to go with all the Vallisneria, then yeah, they'll produce. Like they're producing now, but instead of me going in and stripping the fry every time, I want them to be able to just breed and release the fry. And I've just been feeding them lots of duckweed in addition to pellets. So, you know, all of these plants in here didn't get any root tabs. So, just wanted to, you know, kind of have some control there, if you will. And yeah, so it's worked out pretty good.
Everyone loves yellow labs.
Yeah, down here, this is the biggest hodgepodge because a lot of this was temporary. Now turning few months permanent. So yeah, there we've got a crebensis female, and we also have the males in here. And they've laid babies before, but they get chomped by the Juraparis. And these Juraparis, they get about 10 inches, and they're meant to go live with...
I don't even see this dude.
Yeah. And so those are the whiptail cats I brought back from Peru that we caught. Wait, no, I didn't catch those. We bought those at Wholesaler. This piece of wood brought this weird sponge that I had in a tank a while ago. The piece of wood sat dry for like 2 months. Then I put it in here, and the sponges came back alive. So, and then also what's in here is the fireball platies. So these are a platy, and they're full grown. So even though they look like, oh, those are cute little baby platies, like, no, they're full grown, and they're one of my absolute favorite fish because there's so much color in them, and they look great against green background plants.
Well, all the backgrounds are, well, like the actual 3D backgrounds are new since I've been here. That looks pretty cool.
Yeah, so they're all...
Well, since the last time I filmed.
They're all made by Universal Rocks. My suggestion is to buy them on Amazon. They're actually cheaper on Amazon than they are from Amazon Rocks' own website. You can only get a few...
Rocks?
Yeah. You can only get a few sizes there. If you're going to do a whole fish room like me, I did buy the 20-foot by 4-foot roll, but know that there's some quality control issues. Like, I wouldn't recommend it to anyone knowing you're going to have some wastage and you're investing several hundreds of dollars, and it was less than ideal. And so both of these 75s are actually from Amazon, the background, and they're thicker and they look better. They're made by Universal Rocks, but then over here, some of the last ones we did actually. So if you look down here, this empty tank, this was some that we had to repair. So this was a giant crack right through here, and then the corner's missing, and so we had to do, find how to make these things look good even though they were damaged. And so we also ordered a 20-foot roll. We only got 19 feet.
That's what annoys the crap out of me.
We didn't notice it, though, until you get towards the end, because you don't roll the thing out and measure it to be 20 because it's really long. We were going to cut the last ones, and we're like, oh, great. Yeah, we're going to have enough to do what we need to do. And we go, wait, we're short. Did we do math wrong? And then I was like, well, Dean doesn't do math wrong. Dean was cutting them, and I know Dean would not do math wrong. And so we add up all the backgrounds, we look at the scraps, and we're going, we didn't do math wrong. There's a foot missing.
Wow.
So we're missing a foot. I have another whole roll. I haven't measured it to see, is it true, is it... And it wasn't true, by the way. Like, it got a little sloppy where when they cut it, it was kind of like, whoa, someone's not driving very straight today. But they do look good once they're installed. That's hard to deny. And I do like it. So I do envision all the glass tanks will have this going forward. For me, it makes filming a little bit easier. Shows off the fish a little bit better. I mean, it really shows off the green water in this tank. So, yeah. But it is a lot of work. I'll say if you're setting up a new fish room, way better to do this ahead of time. And if you don't have bulkheads, which this bulkhead is, I get it, it's ugly. We stopped mid-project going, hey, we got to move. But when you do build them in like this over here, they blend in pretty well, actually. Once you get some plants growing in front of it. So, we figured it out. But it is quite difficult to glue it in and center up a bulkhead perfectly. It's not easy. We've you get better each one you do. We've done quite a few now. But our latest tip is glue it in, cut the bulkhead later. Like, already have the tank drilled, but get in there with an X-Acto knife and work it, and be careful because you're using very sharp knives and you're kind of like prying against glass, and you could cut your bulkhead and then that can leak, so it wasn't always the most fun. All right, so yeah, we're gonna feed the powder blue swordtails, and I'm sure we'll get some extra footage of it, but these guys, I want to get them in a tank so I can know when to take out like the red fry that you'll see come out every once in a while.
I can see some fry.
Yeah, they're big fry eaters. Swordtails in general are. So I need more guppy grass. You can see all these red ones hanging out back here.
Oh yeah.
Too dumb to come. Like, these are big enough that like they probably know we'll get sniped. That's why I run a lot of snails though. I run a lot of snails because you got to get food to the babies, but then also you don't want just a bunch of food laying around. So they actually help quite a bit, I find.
This is a fish that I've never really done, swordtails.
I don't do them very often because they're a little more aggressive than platies and variatus and mollies and guppies. And I usually don't like that much.
Speaking of guppies.
Yeah, these are the Vienna guppies I brought back from Vienna World Championships. And
when you were in Vienna?
Yeah, I was. Sometimes I like to go to Vienna and buy Vienna stuff. And we bring these to the shop, we sell them. They're super cool. They have short tails, lots of glare. Hopefully we'll get some good underwater footage to overlay this. There's red cherry shrimp in here. And, there's probably 300 fish in here because
just what I see on top.
Yeah, just how thick this is. You pick up fish because they can't escape. When you start catching fish with your hands, there's a lot of fish in there. When it comes to ponds like this, you can't see all the fish. So you see them up top, you got to know for every one you see, there's probably 5 or 6 down below you're not seeing. So if you only feed the ones at the top, you need it to get down and in to actually get the babies, because we're seeing all the big ones, big, quote unquote, but there's tons of tiny babies around that you just have to know are there. You can't, if you sit down, you sit and you watch. Plus, we want to get some food to the cherry shrimp that are in here, the snails, and that, again, the snails are what help me. If I feed way too much, don't worry, the snails will get it. All right, and here we've got, these are some yellow, like blue-tailed, leer-tailed guppies, and they're finally starting to take off because the guppy grass is getting thick enough. And you don't have to use guppy grass. It's any plants that are dense enough that the adults can't just instantly chase them down. They're not always in line of sight. You see here's a bunch of little babies, and they'll start herding, as they detect you're onto them, type of deal. I only feed every other day. I'll go weeks where sometimes I'll feed every day, but I get busy and then it's like, oh, the light's starting to go out. And so I do feed pretty heavy, and then I'll let them, fast. But there'll be weeks where they get live baby brine every day. It just depends what my week looks like. How crazy is my week? Every day starts with the intentions of feeding them really well. And there's some that I'll put automatic feeders on. In the new house, I think I'm going to put an auto feeder on each one and still feed them myself as well. But I'd get a lot more fish out of here, but I don't necessarily need tons of fish. I'm doing it mostly for enjoyment purposes. So,
now these are some of my favorite right here.
Yeah, the tuxedo Santa Claus or koi guppies.
These guys are insane looking.
Yep, they keep making tons of males, and so I need the guppy grass or just any kind of plant in here to keep growing so that more can escape the males that are more nimble and chase down the babies. Yeah, I know it's guppy, 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 but that's what I like.
Nothing wrong with guppies. I see a goldfish in this one, I think.
Yeah, these are goldfish out of the 800 gallon. There's 3 of the smaller ones left in here. I'm hoping they'll polish off the duckweed so I can have a duckweed-free pond. And I moved 2 of them over to another pond to get the duckweed out. It'll be my goal again to get to a point where I'm duckweed-free in the fish room. I've
good luck.
Done that a few times, but eventually what happens is, like I think when I brought this guppy grass in, we got a big old bucket of it, and I missed like a piece or 2. And then when you go to propagate, like, oh, I moved it, and so it's really nice when you don't have it.
See some fry in here.
Yeah, there is some fry, and I don't know what they're from. So it's mystery. So when that happens, because I'm sure I grabbed guppy grass from somewhere and it went into here, and there's the goldfish, those fry will actually go into this tote. So this tote is, if there's too many of one species, like when I had way too many males, I moved all the extra males in here, and I have Robert from the store come and pull all the big ones out and sell them. And so
I think I see a super red down here.
yeah, super red bristlenose.
Yep.
Yep. So most of the totes have a super red in them. Just growing them out. I'll pair them off eventually. You know, this one does have the auto feeder on it because we're trying this one. Like, well, we do need to grow them fast, and sometimes the load will be pretty heavy in here because a lot of the other ones we sell them as pairs, and you might have this. Oh, we've got 5 males for every female. Well, that's not going to work for selling. So we put them in here. We grow them up. We mix them into our bulk bins at the store, and you can just buy them as like a $4 or $5 guppy instead of, you know, a $10 guppy.
How many total? 9?
Totes?
10?
Yeah, it should be 5, and then is it 11? Let's see, 1, 2, 3,
6.
5.
Yep.
Yeah, 11 totes. And I've got one more in the garage. So I bought 12 initially, and we were going to put one right here actually, but we thought it closed off the room. Like right when you walked in, it was just like, oof, into totes. And you kind of want, if you don't have COVID going on, you can actually have some people around, and you might need some space to stand and look at stuff, which I've never gotten to do in here yet. It's always just been kind of me and one other person at this point. Yeah, I've got the air really cranked up in here. But this is my wife's goldfish from the 800 gallon. And
looking at the super red plecos.
Orange Crush. Let's see if we can get him to come out here.
Yeah, I got him.
Yeah, so he gets a little special attention. My wife says he's special enough that he should get a tank inside the house at the new place.
Wow.
So yeah, she does that. She's big on, you know, you should do more work that's not in a fish room where it's super easy. You know, it's like, oh yeah, we could put fish in there and then I could take care of them. Oh, thanks. More guppies here. This is the German Berlin buttercups. So they've got a nice yellow tail to them and a yellow side. Let's see if I can move this out of the way a little bit, get you a little better view. But this one's a slow mover again. We need the plants to populate enough to give me the cover for more babies to make it. So we are pushing forward, but usually, so these totes used to be bigger totes, and I don't like the bigger totes. I like the smaller totes. And when you go to set something up like this, it takes like a solid 6 months before you've got enough plant mass and you really start cranking out a bunch of fish. So you got to have a lot of patience. And luckily for me, I'm real lazy and I got a lot of patience. So
That's one way to look at it.
yeah, and you know, these have only been filled with water. They've never been water changed, but they've only been set up for probably 2 or 3 months at this point. So yeah, blue silver autoantlers in here. There's some orange shrimp as well. We've got a different floating plant. This is Salvinia.
Is this the mini?
I don't know if it's necessarily a mini form. I just got it from Dean, and Dean didn't know what it was. So he's like, I got a floating plant.
Sometimes when I see it, it's like mini, and then it's just, sometimes they throw the word in there. I don't know if they're just trying to get more money out of it. So
yeah, it's one thing, you know, it's actually quite a bit of fry in here now. This used to be in one of the tanks where we redid the background. So one of the empty 29s moved into here. They got more space, they have more cover, making more fish and more shrimp. And there's no guppy grass, well, not none, but there's very little in here because to get that density, like you'll see with the panda guppies coming up, it just takes a while. You know, it takes that 6-month mark of lots of guppy grass. And so, like in here, you can see there's tons of fish. Let me see if I can move this.
These are one of my favorite guppies.
Yeah, so there's tons and tons of fish in here. But part of it is because there's lots of guppy grass, and we feed really heavy in here. And
they're just everywhere you look.
Yeah, and this is what I enjoy looking at. I get sad every time Robert's like, "Hey, do you got any more of that fish that we can sell?" Because I don't really want the money. I like to sit down and go, "Look at all this! I made all this." You know, like this is so neat. And it's one thing if like, oh, I give a couple of pairs away to a friend, that's no problem. But when it's like, oh, I guess I better catch 20 or 30 pairs out for the store, and when I'm selling them, I sell the nicest ones. So it's like I neuter what I like to look at. And yeah, these guys
really nice males here.
We'll go hungry hippos. You can see them just hit the water, the top of the water, and
guppies are one of those fish that look really good from top down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I just find it super enjoyable for me, making fish has always been rewarding. and it always is. Like sometimes when you just need a de-stress, go sit by a bunch of fish you made and just see what they're doing. And I love it when I see lots of tiny babies that are way down in the weeds. And to me, I always see success when I see a lot of babies. Like, oh, it's going well.
Now, I really like this next fish.
Yeah, the Variatus platy, one of my absolute favorites. And
a fish I've never kept.
Yeah, they look so good. These are high fin variants, and there's not enough plant in here because the light's the way it is. We've got this mantle that covers up half of it, and someone had a great idea of like, put a light underneath here to light this. I'm like, that's genius. Too bad I'm moving. So in the new studio, we won't put a mantle over this, and we'll be able to light it just as well as this one, because these ones are set up at the same time, and you can see way more plants here than this one. And I keep like putting more into here to help it along, but it just doesn't get the same light. And so
I'll have to steal a couple of these when the move happens.
yeah, I mean, they're making more, so because this isn't even an expensive fish. They only sell for like $4 or $5. So they're, you know, I originally fell in love with them when I was doing maintenance. I bought them for a client's tank, you know, so it would have been like 10 years ago now. And I just bought them at PetSmart. And they're like $3 back then at PetSmart, and they just called them Sunset Variatus. And as her tank got filled with them and overflowing with them, they looked amazing. So
yeah, this big male here looks really good.
you can see when I was moving guppy grass, there's actually a Vienna guppy in here.
Oh yeah.
So I'm very careful when I move stuff, because I know, like, you watch me pick up the guppy grass with the Vienna guppies, and the guppies came with them. And so I know you can't take guppy grass from a tank with guppies and put it into another one. You're going to contaminate it. So I have to, that's why a lot of times I'll go with goldfish or something first. They'll eat the babies, or you'll see them, something will happen, and you know, okay, now it's safe or it's not safe to move it.
Yeah. All right, so we'll head out and take a look at some ponds now. Outdoor ponds.
That's right, outdoors. Got more wonders to be told.
That's true.
All right, so this is my koi pond we built last summer, I think. A lot of algae, meant to get to it and put more filtration on it, but didn't, because now I'm moving. So I do big water changes, do big water changes on it. And you know, the koi are obviously super active and friendly, and you know, they'll eat on your fingers and splash you, and you know, it goes 6 feet down, which is pretty crazy. I never even swam, I never got in or anything, but
should do it right now.
Yeah. It's pretty warm, actually. It's probably like, you know, 78 degrees or something. It's pretty warm, honestly. But I'm always afraid that, like, if I was going to get in here, I'll do it right before I do a big water change, because let's say, like, I've got deodorant on. I know, shocker, I do have deodorant on. I don't want that kind of stuff, like, getting into the water and staying there long term. So, but yeah, I think I've actually narrowed down where the algae comes from, and it's from the airstone.
From the sun?
Well, that, yes, but, you know, it would only be on the sides and stuff. With the sides, when you drain it, there's like, oh my God, there's like no algae on there. It's because it's whipped up. That air pump, I'll show you that in a minute, but I don't know, I think it's pretty cool. Yeah, this is some generic food we bought at the last minute because there's so much stuff out of stock. And my wife was like, get koi food, we need koi food. So, yeah, they're going to go nuts. I still need to set up a feeder. Well, I had a feeder, bought this like $300 feeder, and then it didn't work. So I had to send it back. I'd say like every other day. I mean, there are definitely, we can go weeks at a time, we're feeding every day, and then there's times where we're just really busy, and then we don't feed every day. Yeah, that guy has cool metallic scale. He's got some like kikuru name to him, but the ones that have the big scales or no scales are my favorite. Doitsu line. So most of them are that, where that guy's a kohaku. He's got normal, you know, scales.
I don't know what any of that means.
The kohaku is this red and white pattern. You know, this guy's black and white, and
hey, buddy.
Yeah, I'll pull up this air stone over here. So I run a dedicated linear air piston pump to one air stone. So it's pretty gnarly.
Moves a lot of water.
This is a weighted. So when you pump this much air, it actually will float the whole thing. So this is weighted airline tubing that's, you know, pretty hefty and thick.
Holy cow, that thing is massive.
Yeah, so it's filled. You have to fill it with sand or gravel, and yeah, it kind of grows that algae on it. It's all in my fingernails now. But yeah, this is just a big rubber membrane that you're pumping insane amounts of air to, and the pond actually calms down quite a bit. If I put it in the center, it's almost like a jacuzzi, so I kind of just like lift it in there. Let's see here. And it'll take a second, but then it really gets going. Because it'll basically boil up over and create that. So I usually keep it kind of towards the corner just so that because what it'll do is it'll pin all the food in the corners. It will corral the pine needles, which is nice, but it also makes the koi hide if I put it way too far in the middle. Or
I want to put one of those in a 4D breeder.
Yeah. I mean, the airstone itself, I think it's like $120 or something. I'd never bought one like that before. It's meant for like a lake or something, but it had to go down, and this tubing is usually meant for a lake too, or a really, really big pond, because it has to be weighted enough. So yeah, these guys,
this is big enough.
They usually eat, if we're not walking around creating these shadows, they're a little more robust when it comes to eating and everything. But that's a Metsuba. That guy's won some awards. Yeah, this is the big question, whether I take the koi with me to the new place or not. I haven't decided yet.
I think you have to.
I know, that's what everyone says, and I go, yeah, you're kind of right. I'm not saying. Then I've got this, so we have to sell this house. And I have this giant, is it like, oh no, it's actually a pool.
It'll be a pool. So the realtor will sell it.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, well, if you have a koi pond without koi, that's a little weird.
6
sell it.
foot.
Yeah, 10 by 10 by 6 feet down. It's got to be more. I think it's got to be more, because whenever we were standing in it, it was way above us. Like,
I'd swim in it.
Yeah, because you put a full ladder in there, and you still got to get like on the top rung to get out. So it's got to be. Maybe I'm just remembering that we dug 6 feet down, and then we brought it up like 30 inches above.
A couple feet, easy.
But I don't know. I feel like it's. I don't know. When I look down, you start getting that. Like, you don't want to fall down there, move. So.
You ain't coming back up.
All right, well, we can head back to my little ponds, which
let's check out the small
ones. I get to spend
ones.
more time with them.
So yeah, tell me about this, because to me, this looks awesome.
This pond is what drives me every day. So these are by a golf course, and there's a lot of brush and debris that falls into it all the time.
And golf balls.
Yeah, I found golf balls in here before, and I had one little USB air pump, but when it bakes in the sun, it eventually will quit. It gets too hot. So this is from last year. And then I used to run a sponge filter in here, but this is a raccoon. Like they keep going to Chomp Town on it, so I don't do that anymore. So there's no filtration at all, and it makes more babies than any other like aquarium or pond that I have.
There's a ton of babies.
Yeah, there's.
And what are these?
These are platinum rice fish, so they can stay out year round. You can see there's even just like the tiniest, there's one smaller than that in there, but they're hard to get on camera. So there's, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of fry in here. And with this pond, I only feed it maybe once every couple of weeks, because it's further away from my fish room. And it's a lot of times I don't remember to do it. But it's got all of this guppy grass in here.
A giant mat.
Got tons of algae.
This thing's, like 3 feet tall. You go down like 6 inches and you hit the mat.
Yeah, it's, but I let everything that ever falls in stay. So here's a branch that
including
went in.
Squirrels.
That's right. I did have a squirrel, so that's why I put that rock in there. We had a squirrel drown. It was horrible. So now we've got a way for a squirrel to get back out of here. It's never happened in my koi pond, but over here I think they get on the fence, or they fall out of the tree, or they jump out of the tree, something. And this water gets much warmer, as you could think. It's pretty. It's in a black thing, and this is probably in the 85s or so. And
so not only can they go super cold, they can go really warm.
Yeah, and if you watch, you'll see all the algae in the plants. They're actually pearling. They're getting enough sunlight coming in that, I don't put fertilizer in here. Literally, it's leaves and crap like that. It just accumulates, and if you go to the bottom, you're just like, oh, it's just so gross. But I've been doing this experiment now for probably, I think we're on year 4. and it hasn't always been rice fish. Rice fish have been the last 2 years, but before that it was like some goldfish during the winter, and then it would be white clouds.
Tell me where this rock came from.
That rock, we did a trip around the country, or at least around California and all that. We went to Super Zoo, and Chris Lukup, myself, Jimmy, and Joel went and collected that. Oh, and I think Aquapros too. Aquapros I think was there too. But basically we went to Area 51 out in the desert and collected moon rocks.
It's an alien rock. That's one rock all the way to the bottom.
Yeah, it was supposed to go in the 800-gallon tank, but it's so crazy heavy I was afraid. And we drove that rock all the way back, so it went, 6,000 miles, and so I put it in here, and it's a squirrel saver now. So it worked out pretty good.
From aliens to squirrels.
That's right. So you can see, obviously we need to probably start catching some of the adults out of here and selling them off, which we do. We take them to the store. This one has kind of been leaving untouched, and this, like I said at the beginning, is kind of it's the base of my whole fish room. So in my fish room, you guys saw my ponds, and we don't do any water changes in those because this doesn't get a water change. I top it off, it gets rain. I don't think it even overflows, but it seems to do better, and I can't explain why. When you test the water, you're like, the water's worse. When you look at it from any aquarist lens, you're like, this is worse. But then if we go and look at my 3 other ponds, you're going to go, oh, these are typical aquarist ponds, but they're not performing nearly as well.
Yeah, let's go look at them. All right, so there's 3 of them here.
Yeah, so we've got 3 ponds here, and the 2 ones on either side are rice fish, so that way they're different kinds, so they don't jump in and commingle. And in here, we've got tons of green water. They get fed probably every other day. So, there'll be weeks where they'll get every day's live baby brine shrimp, and they will make some.
Is this the same kind?
Yeah, exact same as that other bin over there. Now, not quite as much water. It's about half as much water, but there is, there's algae and it's not nearly as packed dense though. So obviously there's something to that. These ones, I've been running more traditional, like kind of clean them up at the beginning of the season. I would wager, there is a lot of roots and stuff on these water hyacinth. And so probably eggs in there too.
2 feet of roots, yeah.
Yeah, but it's not nearly as dense. So is that the magic? This doesn't get nearly as much debris because it's much further from the trees. And I've been known to run a net through at the beginning of the season to remove debris. But this one will get live baby brine, it'll get live normal brine, it'll get, it's got green water, it's got plants, it gets food, and it'll make like 1/10 as many as the one where I do nothing. So it's discouraging, but also encouraging of like, I should just do more of nothing.
And speaking of brine.
Yeah, this, if the sunlight will show it, or if we get some underwater footage, this is a saltwater pond. And this is all brine shrimp that I either put eggs in or hatched out. And brine shrimp, when they're happy, they're live bearers. Just like a guppy will give live birth, so will brine shrimp. If they're not happy, they lay eggs. And so you can pretty much keep this going year round. At worst, next year, all you got to do is sprinkle some brine shrimp eggs in and get it fired up.
Yeah, I want to try this just for fun.
It's my sea monkeys,
Yeah.
like it's my sea monkey pond. And you could say, I have a saltwater pond. And it's fun to feed like epistogrammas and cribs and any other fish that's like a little bit bigger. The African cichlids will go nuts for it. Everyone goes nuts for it. And you get to learn about like, oh, saltwater algae. And if you're worried about it, like if you have a family member, it's like, how dare you, you're going to get mosquitoes. Mosquitoes can't live in the saltwater. So you can still have a pond outside and not have to worry about bugs. Because it's saltwater.
This is awesome. I'm doing this next year for sure.
Yeah, I've done it. This is the second year I've done it now. And this year I documented it on the forums. And actually, oh man, I'll see if I can get you the video. I think this might be the first video I ever made on YouTube on my first channel, was documenting for the club about the brine shrimp pond. It was in a whiskey barrel I had. It might be the first, or it's within the first 3 for sure. Because I was trying to show people like, no, you can have a brine shrimp pond. Look what I'm doing.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it'd probably been 10 years since I had done a brine shrimp pond now. Then this has orange rice fish, and I cannot get them to breed nearly as well. I keep, like Dean's got some went to the store, I keep getting them in other people's hands, but for whatever reason, in this pond, you know, maybe I make 20 a year.
Wow.
Where on that, like some of the other ponds, I can make a couple hundred easily doing nothing. And this one gets fed. And when you check water parameters, in theory, this will be better because the green water keeps it clear. And I will point that out. What I find cool is there's so many plants in that other one, it doesn't turn green. This one turns green because there's not enough plants. But I need the green water because what I do is when I feed, I get buckets of green water and I dump it into the brine shrimp because they're filter feeders. So I'll take turns, you know, just dumping back and forth. Well, not back and forth. I don't put the salt back in here, but between each container, putting some green water. But mostly what I feed is whatever I'm feeding these other fish, I'll toss in here. So if it's vibrobites, if it's fry food, because it just decomposes and it'll cloud the water and then they'll eat it. So, you know, and the algae is the filter in here. I am running, you know, a very small air stone. It's almost like a little island. Yeah. So it's fun to play with, and you know, I really, you know, over the years you end up doing so much. I get super excited when it's stuff I haven't done very often or it's new. Like, what if I got a saltwater bug in here? Like, what is that?
I don't even know if I can wait till
babies that have hatched out from adults, like they were born in here.
I kind of want to do this right now.
Yeah, you could do it because so this is about probably about 6 weeks now. It takes about 30 days to go from eggs to this going.
As soon as you get those eggs in stock, I'm telling you.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, I've got some eggs. I can give you some eggs just so you can get one of these going. But yeah, at the beginning it looks really bad. And if you look on the form, you can see it was all brown and mucky because I didn't clean it out. I just put salt in it. And I let all that muck be there to start this up.
And I got lots of extra salt too.
I was going to say, I got lots of extra muck.
I got that too. I mean,
yeah.
You see my aquariums.
I mean, you do get the salt ring and everything, and there's still pine needles that fall in here. And so you got to, you know, maybe get the little pine needles out every once in a while so you don't put those in your aquarium. But
do you actually measure the salt, or do you just like about this much? Like
I do measure the salt
actually.
What the salinity is? I did whatever, you know, I think it was like 2 cups per gallon is what, I bought a bucket of salt, and that's what makes like 0.28 or whatever salt water. But you can actually see here, this is vibrobites from yesterday. They're still like decomposing in there.
Yeah, I saw them down there.
So that's, you know, it'll just absorb in and
just throw in that fry food, be good.
Yeah, and there's even some fry food stuck in the algae, I think, a little bit. But that's, you know, I really spend a lot of time trying to go, well, what does nature do? Because they don't have someone feeding every day. They don't have a Sunday water change day. And so what can I learn? And the best thing to do is play around and see what it can do. You know, usually maybe not in the ocean or whatever, it's a tide pool, but you know, probably some fish are gonna die in there and it's gonna feed that thing for a week straight of like nutrients. And so, you know, the best is when this thing will go green. Usually that'll only go, like if I harvest way too many brine shrimp, then I can get the nutrients up high enough and it'll turn green. But then, so you get a green explosion, then you get a brine shrimp explosion because I eat so much. So it's, you know, but fun. I'll probably set one up at the new house and stuff. I love having live foods to just like, I'm gonna go grab some.
Probably.
of that.
This looks like easy mode.
Oh, it's easy because I don't do anything. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is. I don't know. You end up trying to do so many things. You're like, because each time you build it, you're like, well, I wonder if I could change something about it. I wonder, like, should I try to get it more sun, less sun? Should I try and, you know, each time you think you learn something, you're like, well, I'll try that next time. I'll try. Because I kind of want to try, like, I wonder if I can get rotifers and other little saltwater pods going. Like if I ordered some pods online and just like dump them in, see if they'll cohabitate or not. I've also thought about, man, what if I had live rock in there so that it would consume some more nitrates? I mean, the algae will too, but you know, you end up kind of just wanting to tinker. You're like, oh, I won, I did it. All right, let's see if I can do it different.
What's next?
Yeah, so.
All right, well, thanks for having me out.
Yeah, thanks for coming by, and you know, this might be the last tour. I might be able to sneak one more in, but you know, I got to start moving.
This is the last, so I can clickbait it.
That's right.
All right, sir.